You know, I really never liked the desert. It always leaves me bone dry. Shut your bitch ass up!
I know I mentioned that my final Undertale video would be about Mount Ebott, but something caught my eye, and it's not the analog horror and it's not an AU, but it's an ARG. Today we'll be covering a channel called Unaltered User, and we will dive into the ARG rabbit hole. But first, what is an ARG? An ARG is an alternative reality game, and to keep it short and simple, it's basically a copy of a game that sometimes is cursed or just different than the original game. But the main selling point of the ARG is that something is wrong, and something is different. In ARGs, you solve puzzles, and basically you find clues to get to a conclusion. Now, what is that conclusion, you ask? I don't fucking know. Some famous examples are Drowning Ben, Minecraft ARGs, and even Fevertail. Yes, I am aware of Fevertail. But anyways, let's look at the first video on this channel titled Call. The video begins as normal. They're playing as Frisk and they're walking through Snowden, but this happens. They get an unexpected phone call. The player is confused and they still move on and progress through the game. What was that? You can tell there's something wrong here. The feeling of being isolated, yet watched. The player then sees a sign that fully is black, and we know that in the game it's not supposed to be like that. As our protagonist interacts with the sign, we get gibberish. Throughout the video, the player seems confused about what they're witnessing, but they keep exploring, and everything turns more eerie. This path never existed in the game. What it looks like is a black and white version of Frisk Sprite, and there's little info in the video about what it really is and what it really does or want until we look at the description. In the description we get this, and what it says is, I need another. And the sign that was fully black is translated to, this is not the one. I know we have 9 videos in total, but I think the first video already gives us some clues. First of all, whoever wrote that sign is not the one that was probably referring to us. Maybe they were expecting someone else to play the game. But what does it mean, I need another? Let's just go by pure speculation, and whatever is haunting Frisk is a puppet of some sort, a tool, a helper of something or someone. And when it says in the description, I need another, it could be referring to a vessel of some sort. Again, don't take this seriously, this is me reaching for the wildest scenarios based off of breadcrumb of information. Since we don't have a lot of information to go off of from the first video, let's look at the next video titled Empty Town. The video begins as usual, players walking through the bridge where you're supposed to meet Papyrus, but nobody came. The music feels different. Something is clearly wrong. No one is in the town except for this guy. I just forgot his name. We see that the player's choice of name is Papyrus. Now, I think he tried spelling Papyrus, but he didn't for some reason. And I think it's interesting how player's name is Papyrus or Papyro, and in this video, we don't see Papyrus where we expect him to be. Now, what happens after is the player interacts with the only monster in the town, and they say this. The player then enters the shop, and this happens. Grievous error. Everything is eerie now. The feeling I get when I'm watching this is the same feeling I get when a text appears in the genocide route saying nobody came. The eerie nature is due to the isolation. You expect monsters or just anyone to be here, but they're not. But yet you don't feel alone. As soon as the player gets out of the shop, the only monster in the town disappears. You're alone again. As they continue forward, there's still no Papyrus, despite the fact that he's supposed to fight you here. The only reason this ARG is somewhat unnerving is because the human brain is used to making expectations in social and non-social environments. For example, if you were in a university, your brain expects there to be students going to class or just relaxing outside. But what happens if there's no one there? No birds, no noise, no students, no teachers, no nothing. You'd feel a bit uneasy because your brain's expectations have been proven wrong. Now, how does this apply to the ARG? Us the viewers, we both have seen hundreds of YouTubers play Undertale and go through the same exact location and meet quirky monsters. But when we see this person play the game, no one is found and you get caught by surprise. The ambience also makes things worse. After nobody came, the player enters the waterfall area and then this happens. Alright Toby mate, fuck off for a minute. Now whatever is haunting our player is aware that the player's name is Michael. Now there is a veneer cipher and if you try to decode it, it says Now, I do also want to mention that whatever is haunting Michael is probably observing him and his behaviors for a personal experiment maybe. Again, in the first video, the cipher said, this is not the one and I need another. Whatever is trying to haunt Michael is clearly after something, and he sees flaws in Michael. Hence why it says at the end, not perfect. Now, what is it after? Too soon to say, to be honest. But if you look at the description, you get this cipher, and decoding it, it says,
so many messages. Yet none of them seem to fit.
Now, going off of that, it's kind of clear what this thing wants, a vessel of some sorts. It kind of explains the black and white vessel of Frisk in the first video. It's clearly trying to get another vessel, another mask. This reminds me of many horror movies where the main antagonist, i.e. the demon or whatever, is just trying to get a vessel to further continue its reign of terror. For example, Smile and Hereditary. Now, a part of me does want to link Deltarune into this and say that this could be a little connection to how you can make a vessel at the beginning, but I personally don't see it. The next video is called Dissonance. Michael starts at the beginning of the game and it's almost as if he restarted the game, but something seems very off. Flowey is melted, but Toriel comes along and says the usual dialogue. Until she randomly disappears. It's almost as if the thing that is trying to haunt Michael doesn't want any interference. It's as if Toriel was blocking his path. My question is, how comes that thing that haunts him didn't get rid of Toriel from the start? It's clear as day that this thing doesn't have full power over the game just yet. Could it be that the thing just wants Michael to skip the tutorial with Toriel? Maybe. But anyways, Michael then further explores the ruins, but then again, there's no monsters. But hey, the music is finally normal. One thing you realize is that the puzzles are already solved, as if the entity or the thing that's haunting him doesn't want him to get sidetracked by the puzzles. Rather, he's trying to lead him down a very narrow path, almost as if he's leading him to a trap. Or maybe some other player already did the puzzles and there's nothing left to do. There's a mention of many masks, and this thing complains that it doesn't seem to fit. So maybe this isn't the first time a player has experienced this. Maybe there are other victims that unfortunately were caught by the entity, then disposed due to the flaws. Another thing to point out is that Michael is clearly being followed. When you walk past the dummy room, we see a sprite of Papyrus, but why? Not a lot of information is given about this, but it's safe to assume that the entity is just simply following Michael, tracking and observing his movements. Michael makes his way past the ruins only to get darker, and then this happens. Now, I have no idea what the fuck was chasing Michael, but damn, Frisk is a runner. The only statement we get from Michael is in the video description, and he says,
I've been having weird dreams lately. A lot of them involved flowers. Weird.
Also, there's a URL to a pastebin, and it's basically Michael's pastebin. Now, the cipher there is decoded to,
This is just a bad dream, and you're never waking up from it.
I do wonder what the significance of Flowey is, and why does it appear in Michael's dreams? It could be that the white decaying flowers clearly represents a loss of life or loss of something. What this something is clearly haunting Michael's dreams. It could be a foreshadowing of something, someone that he's going to lose in the future and he just doesn't want it to happen. Compared to the original game, Flowey is green and bright yellow. He has a cocky personality and he's known for betraying characters over and over again. Now the question is, could this have a meaning to Michael's social life? Did anyone pull a Flowey and is it affecting his mental health? Well, interestingly enough, the next video will answer our question. In the next video, we see Michael walking around the waterfall, and interestingly enough, he encounters the first enemy. A weird and twisted version of Frogger. The music is a banger, I can't lie. Now, Michael tries to damage the enemy, but nothing happens. And the fight just resets. Also, for some reason, the Frogger's health is already decreased, as if someone already hurt it. When Michael tries to act, a random text show up, until you stop and read what it says. Who is that behind you? The one with the creepy smile. Now, this may not seem much, but I do think that this little chunk of dialogue is important. The Frogger in the code, sees the entity in the game, and it sees it right behind Frisk, and it's wondering, who is that behind you? Even the corrupt Frogger is kind of confused at who is this character behind Frisk, which kind of adds a really nice detail into the ALG. It's almost as if, the game's characters are also confused and they might also have trouble understanding what this thing is that's haunting them as well. This line is in the game and it's only used when you interact with a monster catching bugs in room 123 or whatever. When Frisk gets caught in the net again, the monster asks them, "Can you do something about your friend?" Yes, your friend, the one behind him with a creepy smile. Now, who could this be? People theorize it to be Gaster, some say it's Sans, and some even say it's Flowey. Now, if it is Flowey, this may tie back to the dream that Michael had about flowers. But if it's not Flowey, then it could be the entity just following Michael during the battle, just breathing down his neck, observing. It's creepy either way. After that, the Frogger just disappears and Michael is at the place where we fight Undyne, but nobody came. It was an ambush.
I can feel it. My form is almost complete. It's not really all that fun. Killing a fictional character in a fictional world. Do you think I am done here? Done with you. Not talking about Frisk. I am talking about you. I want to tell you something. Michael, yes. Or the name you know.
Yourself online.
What is with that look on your face? A friend that I know.
Who you are.
So now that we know that this entity is after Michael, it kind of leaves us to question, is he after Michael just so he can break out into the physical realm and cause more chaos there? And another question is, why does it look like Gaster? Second of all, what is the main intention of this entity? Is it to harm humans? Now, the reason why I ask that is because the entity didn't feel satisfaction when he got a digital kill, which was Frisk. It's almost as if he's craving a real kill. Now, why? I don't know, it's just fucking evil. But again, it shows that he wants to escape to the physical realm and genuinely get a real life kill. Or maybe he already does have influence in the physical world. Maybe he just needs Michael for a different purpose. Also, did you see that YouTube URL the Frogger gave? No? Okay, well, let's have a look. Here's the URL to the video, and since it's really hard to read what they're saying, I might as well show you an animated version I directed. But before I show you, the basic premise of this video is that Michael calls his friend Dean and tells him about the strange things that are happening when he's playing Undertale.
Hello? Hey, Dean. It's me. Well, what's up? Have you seen the messages I sent you? Nah, I've been busy, so I haven't gotten any time to watch them. There's something going on with my game. Nothing makes sense. I've been searching for it all over the internet, and I have no idea what that thing is. Whoa, slow down. I can barely understand you. Well, I'm probably going to quit the game for a while. It said my name today. I'm pretty sure most RPGs use the name that you enter. No, not this one. Well, yes, it does use my name, but I'm not talking about the name I entered. It used my full legal name. Shouldn't that be against Steam's TOS or something? I don't know, probably, but this isn't a joke. I'm serious, dude. Damn, well, if I were you, I'd stop playing as well. Yeah, well, thanks for listening. Kinda tired after everything, so I think I'm just gonna go to bed. Well, I have to head out soon anyways. Good luck with whatever's happening.
Flowey in the original game is a backstabber to Papyrus. Flowey is a character known for taking advantage of people's ignorance and manipulating them for his will. And Papyrus is an innocent character and he takes people's word for granted. Papyrus in the original game was tricked by Flowey to gather all the monsters together just so he could steal their souls. In other words, Flowey, this cocky, arrogant character, has manipulated Papyrus due to his ignorance and lack of awareness to Flowey's evil schemes and fell into his trap. I wonder if this context of the character and their tropes are linked with the core and linked with Dean and Michael. Michael is portrayed as Papyrus because they're ignorant of the current situation that's occurring, and they trust their friend Dean, who's portrayed by Flowey, and this could mean many things, such as Dean just being a fake friend to Michael, or just having some malicious ulterior motives. Just an FYI, this isn't explicitly shown, but the way the sprite moves and talks, it gives off like a smug vibe when Dean responds. One thing I am certain is that the creator of this ARG didn't pick Papyrus and Flowey by chance, with no hidden meaning, and they picked the two characters that have a negative dynamic together. Now the question arises, how is Dean involved? Well, maybe he just isn't. The Flowey representation could just mean that he's just a fake friend to Michael and he could just have a hidden feeling about him. I wouldn't go as far and say that Dean has a hidden plan with the entity to kill Michael. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Now, in the video called... The video starts with Michael just tapping random stuff on his Word document, and the document is called Major Moment That Shaped My Life, and his pages are just full of random shit, and the game just opens up by itself. Something is very wrong.
Listen here. To put it simply, you're not special. You're not the first, but you do not decide when we are gonna be killed. I do.
Are you under the impression
That I am trapped here. That is funny.
so funny?
I will see this through and be killed.
And you will too.
To your end. But not mine. What is the matter? Can you not shut down your computer now?
Things will change, Michael. They are about to change, Michael.
After that, Michael basically shuts down the program using Task Manager, which proves that the Task Manager basically is OP. But the problem still doesn't change. Well, there's a lot to cover. First and foremost, we understand that this thing has control over Michael's computer, and it says that it isn't confined inside the game, and it finds the assumption really funny. After that, the demon also makes Michael know that he isn't the first victim, and that this isn't the entity's first rodeo. Now, why does this matter so much? Well, how would it know what Michael was thinking there? How would it know that Michael thought that he was the first? How did it know that Michael was thinking that the entity was confined in the game? How did it know what Michael was thinking? It's clear that whatever is haunting Michael, it already has a grasp on his mind and sees Michael very predictable. Also, when the game opened up by itself in the beginning, he was given a black and white faceless sprite of Frisk, which further shows a metaphor of Michael's insignificant existence in the grand scheme of things of the entity's plan. Michael has the same skin as the Frisk sprite that attacked him in the first video, which shows that Michael is unfortunately nothing more than just a number to this entity, a victim who will be forgotten. But the entity could be chatting shit and trying to get Michael to have no willpower to basically fight on and escape this thing, since we know that demons have a thing for making the victims feel helpless and sad and then strike them. But again, this theory kind of sucks and it doesn't work, since what the entity said was literally true. Michael couldn't literally shut down the computer because the entity had influence over it, not just Undertale, but the entire thing itself. It's clear as day that this entity is playing with this food. Also, the name of this code is hello, and we see some cryptic text at the bottom of the screen at the end, and here's what it reads.
You are an idiot for attempting that.
So yeah, this proves that Michael can't ultimately escape the inevitable doom, and the entity finds it somewhat amusing and boring, I guess, to watch Michael try to wiggle out the way of his demise. And in the description, there's more cryptic text saying,
My game will keep going.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing much to add to that. The next video is a soundtrack of like a song that hasn't been used, and it basically has a hidden meaning. The audio is a spectrogram at the beginning, and it reads,
Field of flowers, and whenever I get close to them, they begin to melt. There's a figure in the distance. It doesn't do anything but move away when I try to get close to it. Every time I wake up, I have a worse headache. It's been worse since I quit that game.
So this is clear that whenever he's away from the computer or just away from the game, it takes a toll on his physical and mental health. The entity haunts his dreams and tries to suck the life out of Michael. Pause. Now the next video is interesting, and it's a dialogue between Dean and Michael again, but Michael seems to be confronting Dean for just avoiding him.
Hey, how comes whenever I ask to hang out, you keep making excuses?
I don't have time.
What would be making you busy? You don't have work or anything. Are you going to answer me or just stay silent? Dean? Are you still there?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, whatever happened between Dean and Michael, it's clear that something's wrong with Dean. What happened at the end of the call? Why did Dean randomly make the sound of him turning into a fucking cosmic being? It begs the question, does Dean have something to do with the entity? The next video is titled Friends, and we see Flowey in the thumbnail. It's safe to say that Dean will be involved in this one as well. Michael is at the beginning of the game where you meet Flowey. But he can't interact with him. He just simply walks by Flowey and enters the ruins. I do like to interpret Michael not being able to interact with Flowey is a metaphor for Michael not being able to interact or stay in touch with Dean on a social and on a friend level. No matter how close he is to Dean, he still cannot get in touch with him. Dean still picks up the calls but still avoids and interacts with Michael. Dean then enters the ruins. But he's back. He tries to walk past Flowey again, but he just still comes back. Until this happens. Michael kills Flowey, or does he? What if he didn't kill Flowey, but he killed Dean? Well, maybe not physically, but hear me out. I interpret this video as Michael's mental space. He tries to move on from his friend, not wanting to interact with him, but he just can't escape the fact that he's upset. He's upset that Dean just abandoned him. And when he kept trying to move and enter the ruins, he just gets sent back to Flowey. And he somehow manages to interact with him. Looking at Flowey's face, you can tell that Flowey or Dean just looks shocked, as if they didn't expect to interact with him or just run into Michael. This isn't about Flowey anymore. This is about Dean. Michael, in his mental space, only thought about one thing: to kill his friend. And Michael didn't get enough. The thought of Dean being gone and dead wasn't satisfactory enough, so he imagined killing Dean again. This shows Michael's raging emotion and is caused by being ignored. He hates that his friend doesn't believe him. Now, is there another explanation? Yeah, definitely. Maybe Michael did actually kill Dean. Maybe this isn't Michael, and this isn't about Dean. But let's be so real. The video before this was literally a call between Michael confronting Dean and avoiding him, and Flowey represents Dean as a character. And in this video, Michael is killing Flowey. Now, at the end of the video, there is another cryptid message that says,
How broken.
Now, a part of me wants to believe that the entity influenced Michael's negative emotion and thoughts about Dean, and it will make a lot of sense. Since the entity already has a grasp on Michael's dreams, who's to say that the entity wouldn't find a way to basically influence his emotions? If the entity wanted to make Michael crumble and be in a bad mental space, he would definitely be a bad influence to Michael's headspace. Now, the next video begins after the previous one, and is titled, and it means help. Michael is in front of the black and white Flowey, and surprisingly, he finally gets to interact with it. They enter battle mode. But this is where things get interesting. They can only fight, and this character name begins with D, which sounds like Dean. When Michael strikes Dean, he begs Michael to stop. And the damage that Michael did also translates to help. Not gonna lie, this is a really good detail. Now, Dean tries to fight back, but Michael just keeps attacking until he hits him too many times, and this happens. Dean is dead, and now Michael is in the flower field. Yeah, fucking turn it down a bit, mate. Now, there's so much I want to talk about. First off, is Dean trapped in the game, and did he actually get eliminated by Michael? Did this actually happen in real life, and did we saw it in the perspective of Undertale? Which was my last explanation before we watched this video. As much as I like my own theory or my own interpretation, it's blatantly clear that Dean was inside the game, and his life was contingent on it. Now, what does that mean? Let's rewind to the phone call.
Dean? Are you still there?
Yes. Yeah.
That's not Dean, is it? I mean, it's obvious that something happened at the ending, but it's kinda clear that Dean also fell victim to the entity. The same entity that's haunting Michael. Now, was that really Dean on the phone? I don't think so. Dean in the previous phone calls actually spoke first and had a back and forth with Michael, but in the recent phone call, he just uttered basic words, almost as if the entity couldn't produce a coherent sentence, or maybe not just yet. Now, what happened right after the end of the flower field? Well, we see what the flower field looks like, and the music sounded like a track to a really bad ending. Then the entity pulled up on Michael's bitch ass, and then he just made fun of him for slamming his own friend.
Need you to take a picture with your ass out and your back bent in with your pussy barely peeking through from a low angle with your face in it.
Well, there's nothing really more to go off of other than a second channel that basically says that, hey, it's me, Michael, and I need a little break.
I felt sick for the past week, but that sound made it unbearable. I feel nauseous. For some reason, I couldn't move. I was frozen still.
Now, I do think that Michael was talking about the sound that Dean made when he was begging for his life, but it could also mean the sound that the entity made in the flower fields. Maybe the noise from the entity caused like a physical discomfort, like a curse to Michael. Now, to be fair, this was my first ever full exposure to an ARG, and I gotta say it's great. The tension was on point and the horror was built on a mystery and curiosity. Needless to say, to the creator of this ARG, good job, mate. Wait, there's another video that dropped? What? Now, there's many questions I have to ask. Is this Dean playing the game? Why would Dean have any interest in playing Undertale? Well, first let's talk about what we do know. Assuming that Dean bought Undertale and he played it, it looks like Dean was playing the pacifist route. This is the part where Sans talks to you and judges you, but in Dean's game, someone called out to him. Something is clearly wrong with that sprite, and maybe it's the vessel that the entity used, and maybe the vessel or the corpse is just rotting away and it's unable to keep up with itself. The vessel or the entity tells Dean to sleep, and it seems like he's under the entity's hypnosis now. Well, that's what I seem to get. Now, it's clear that this entity has full control over the vessel that follows Michael and Dean, but the question is, what if the vessel has a mind of its own, but it's under the entity's will? Well, what I mean by that is the entity is just on his ass watching while the puppet is doing the work that the entity wants it to do, but maybe that's just not the case. At the end, we hear noises and it kind of sounds like Dean is snoring, which further shows that the entity does have now full control over Dean, since Dean did fall asleep. It's kind of worrying to think that it's that easy for Dean to get captured by the entity, but the entity is finding trouble to capture Michael. The entity made it very clear that Michael isn't special, but how comes it couldn't capture Michael then, the way it captured Dean? Just put the same sleep spell on Michael and that's it, but it didn't, or maybe it couldn't, or maybe it just didn't want it to do that. But I really don't trust what the entity is saying here, saying that Michael isn't special, because again, why hasn't it captured Michael already? How comes Dean was that easy? Anyways, I don't think I can analyze this further because I don't know what there is to analyze. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye.
I'm the fucking go.
Go on, Vade. Get in, get in.